السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Could you let me know if the voice is audible and clear, inshallah? وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. So we've spoken about financial system quite a few times we've spoken about it. And the reason why it's a topic that keeps getting repeated is because it is one of the biggest tools that the disbelievers have. That's number one. And number two, it's one of the biggest corruptive tools on the face of this earth. I showed you how they use the fiat currency to kill the Muslims, how they use fiat currency to build algorithms that are going to mislead the Muslims, how they use fiat currency to enslave the people, how they use fiat currency to spread drugs and immorality around the world, and how they use fiat currency to have children killed and have their organs sold on the marketplace, and have females trafficked around the world. The fiat currency is practically behind every single form of corruption on the face of this earth. Think of a form of corruption today in this world, and there is some form of fiat currency involvement in it. So when something, this tool, is this influential, then it should be something that's constantly repeated, so that the people are warned, the people are cautioned, and the people are aware. Now, you would have thought the knowledgeable ones would be the ones to be constantly speaking about this topic, but there's not much being spoken about from them concerning this, and they have been silent concerning this for a very long time. And due to their silence, the corruption that's been going on in this world has just intensified year after year. They clearly do not know what is going on. They do not know what they are giving rulings upon. They do not know the evil that is being sprouted from their silence and ignorance. They do not know. But they are the ones that are looked at as the people of knowledge and wisdom. They are the ones that are looked at as knowledge, people of knowledge and wisdom. Wallahu al-mustan. COVID exposed them. Their positioning concerning COVID and vaccines already exposed their level of knowledge concerning what's going on in the world. It already exposed their level of knowledge, their level of intellect, their level of understanding. But when you look at the financial system of today, then that exposes them not just during COVID, but it exposes them for years and years and years and years and years and years and years. Now, we need to try to understand, why are they silent? Because it's already known that they are silent. It's already known that they have given rulings that are in the favor of the Yahud, and it's actually not in the favor of the Muslims. Ajib, isn't it? Imagine giving rulings, so-called Islamic rulings, that are in the favor of the Yahud, and they are not in the favor of the Muslims. Who would have known that supposedly the Sharia was revealed to us so that it favors the Yahud over the Muslim? Ajib, isn't it? It's very, very strange. But we need to understand why the silence. Now, one can say they're silent because of ignorance. And what form of ignorance are these people upon? They are upon a form of ignorance where they do not have access to the information that we have access to. That's number one, lack of information. And number two, a lack of drive in actually wanting to learn more. You see, the believer, he's also always constantly learning. But such people, they remain at a plateau. They do not move forward. And their knowledge and their understanding of what's going on in this world is their knowledge and understanding years ago. They reach this plateau where they do not go forward and they do not progress and they do not understand what's going on in this world today. That's the one form of ignorance. And it's ajib, because if I now start speaking about the fiat currency and I start speaking about the financial system, some of these people are going to start to scratch their head. They're going to say, we never heard our shuyukh and our teachers talk about this and mention what you're mentioning. And so they will reject what I will say, not on the basis of whether what I'm saying is the haqq or if it's falsehood, but on the basis that they didn't hear their own teachers saying this. And to them, I say, you are following the ways of those whom Allah has mentioned in the Quran. وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ تَعَالَوْا إِلَى مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ وَإِلَى الرَّسُولِ قَالُوا حَسْبُنَا مَا وَجَدْنَا عَلَيْهِ آبَاءَنَا أَوَلَوْ كَانَ آبَاؤُهُمْ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ شَيْئًا وَلَا يَهْتَدُونَ. And when it is said to them, come to that which Allah has revealed and that which the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the messenger, they say, حَسْبُنَا مَا وَجَدْنَا عَلَيْهِ آبَاءَنَا. Sufficient for us, sufficed for us, is what we found our forefathers to be upon. أَوَلَوْ كَانَ آبَاؤُهُمْ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ شَيْئًا وَلَا يَهْتَدُونَ. Even though their fathers knew nothing, nor were they guided. Exactly like this. Because the Prophet would go to them and teach them the truth. The Prophet would go to them and tell them what is right. But then they would reject what the Prophet ﷺ said, because apparently their forefathers was not apparently, definitely, their forefathers was upon something else that the Prophet ﷺ was saying. And so they rejected, not because the Prophet lied. They didn't reject based on whether the Prophet was speaking the truth or not. They rejected based on, we didn't find this with our forefathers. This is the same tactics and the same understanding that these people have. And it's ajib, it's gharib, it's strange, it's weird that these are supposedly the ones that have memorized the Quran, but then they read the Quran, but they curse themselves whilst they read the Quran, because the ayat that they recite is actually speaking about them, or it's actually speaking about them following certain people and the ways of those whom they are following. It's crazy. I'm not going to listen to what he has to say about financial systems or whether the fiat currency is impermissible or not, because our shuyukh, our scholars and our teachers, they said it's permissible. And I say to you, أَوَلَوْ كَانَ آبَاؤُهُمْ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ شَيْئًا وَلَا يَهْتَدُونَ. Even if they don't know anything, nor are they guided in that matter. Even if they don't know anything, يَعْلَمُونَ شَيْئًا وَلَا هُمْ يَهْتَدُونَ. And they are not even guided in that matter. Now you're still then going to say, I'm going to stick with my scholar. If that's the case, then guess what? You do not know what Islam is. You do not know what the religion is. You do not know what knowledge is. You do not know what Iman is. You do not know a thing about the thing. And guess what? You fall into that ayah. لا يعلمون شيئا ولا يهتدون. You do not even know anything. It's crazy. It's that compound level of ignorance where you perceive yourself to know something because you're parroting what you heard from someone else. No understanding, no fahm in this matter. You just parrot and you perceive yourself to have knowledge. Or because you're deceived because other people say you're from the people. Oh, Shaykh Fulan is a Shaykh, he's an alim, he's a this, he's a that. When he doesn't even know a thing. Crazy. But that's the time and era we live in. Why do you think the Muslims are humiliated as they are? Are they humiliated because we have so many righteous, noble scholars and the beauty of the light of their faces is just shining bright, and their words, the words of eloquence and wisdom and nobility is spread around the world? And no, that's not what you see in the world today. If that's what you think you see in the world, I don't know what world you're living in. You live in a world where the Muslims are humiliated. They're taken advantage of. They're manipulated. They're killed. They're slaughtered in so many different ways. So many different aspects. Okay? And then you try to act, be proud, we're happy, Sheikh Fulan, Sheikh Alan, I'm going to get this book, I'm going to have all the... What is the use of every single book of yours if it does not call you to action and it does not call you to rectification? What is the point of all those books? You are like those whom Allah has mentioned in the Quran. You are like the donkey. كَمَثِلِ الْحِمَارِ يَحْمِلُ أَسْفَارًا. You're like the donkey that has all these books on top. That is the case for you. Because you have followed the ways of the Yahud. I.e., you just gather knowledge. You know the truth. You know the truth. You know what is being said to you. But you reject it. You reject it. All of these books that you have in your background, the shemar that's ironed, you know, they get their shemar ironed as well. The shemar has to be on point. And then they go there, and some of them they go there, they have the shemar ironed and everything. But what do you see? What is the impact in the world? What is the impact in the world? Where is the impact? Where are the systems? Where are the institutions? Where are the systems? Where is the impact in the world that is being supposedly supposed to benefit the Muslims around the world? Where is it? Why do I see little benefit in the world? Why? Why do I see little benefit in the world? I live in the same world with you. I see the world. I see what's going on. I also see what's being planned and what is going on. Wallahu al-mustan. Wallahu al-mustan. Crazy. It's crazy because scholars, people of knowledge, are supposed to care about the Muslim Ummah. And you know what's ajib and gharib? You know, so much, the more you learn, the more things become clearer and clearer and clearer. When the ruler is mentioned, you will find these same spokespeople, they are so adamant to defend the ruler. So adamant to defend the honor of the ruler. So adamant to defend anything about the ruler. They are so adamant to defend the ruler. But when it comes to the people, where is that same adamant and same desire to look after the people? Where is that? Even if it goes against the ruler, where is that? Where is that? What happened? Is that not the basic foundations that you care for your Muslim brothers? You care for them more than you care for rulers. You care for them more than you care for the Jews. You care for them the most. And Abdullah bin Mubarak, he spoke the truth. Abdullah bin Mubarak, he spoke the truth. Abdullah bin al-Mubarak, he spoke the truth when he said, وَهَلْ بَدَّلَ الدِّينَ إِلَّا الْمُلُوكِ وَأَحْبَارِ السُّوءِ where is it? There, he said, وَهَلْ بَدَّلَ الدِّينَ إِلَّا الْمُلُوكِ وَأَحْبَارِ سُوءٍ وَرُهْبَانُهَا. And he said, who and how, the deen is not changed. Okay, it's not changed, it's not corrupted, it's not harmed. إِلَّا الْمُلُوكِ, except by the rulers. وَأَحْبَارِ سُوءٍ وَرُهْبَانُهَا. And the evil rabbis and the evil monks. The evil rabbis and the evil monks. There's two groups of people that affected the religion, that spill poison. There are two groups of people, and who are those groups of people? The kings and the scholars, supposed scholars. Those are the two people. When they are both corrupt and they are both ignorant, then guess what happens? The religion of the people starts to crumble around them. Because who are the people supposed to be protected by? The rulers, i.e. physically. There has to be a physical protection for the Muslims, which is done by the ruler. That's why he has the right to call for jihad. That's why he has the sword. That's why he has the army. That is why he looks after the affairs of the Muslim people. Okay, this is what? The ruler's job. The scholar, he looks after the heart of the believers and the heart of the Muslims, i.e., he fights against the misconceptions of the disbelievers. He fights against the misconceptions of the people of heresy. He fights against that which affects the hearts of the Muslims. He is supposed to defend the Muslims concerning their heart. So what happens, my brother and sister? What happens when the ruler cares more about himself than he cares about you? And when the scholar cares more about the ruler than he cares about you? What happens in that case? What happens in that case? You know what happens in that case? The borders are left open for the Muslims to be attacked physically. That's number one. Number two, evil spreads into that land to affect the hearts of the Muslims. Wallahu musta'an. It's not like they, and that's the severity of the matter. That's the severity of the matter. Why are people becoming so misled year after year, year after year, year after year? Why do they keep getting more misled? Why are the numbers increasing? Why are the mulhideen increasing? The apostates, why are they increasing? The atheists are increasing. All of these things are increasing. The people of zina are increasing. The people of evil speech are increasing. The people of corruption are increasing. The people of ignorance are increasing. The people of humiliation and disgrace are increasing. Why is all of this increasing? Where are those to counteract this? I'll tell you how you can easily counteract it to a great level. If you can counteract the financial system which is attached to so much corruption, if you can rectify that, you can rectify so much evil in the world today. But the reality is, not a lot of them can do that. Do you know why? Because this leads to the second point. The first point was ignorance, woeful ignorance. The second point is that they can't and they are afraid. Okay, they do not have the courage. They are afraid. And some of them will say, some of them are going to say, oh, how can you say our scholars are afraid? How you are speaking against our scholars and our scholars are this and our scholars are that. Well, guess what? Guess what? You live in a world today where your scholars don't have power. You know, in the olden days, scholars used to have power. Scholars used to influence the rulers because the rulers didn't really have knowledge. The rulers back then never used to have that knowledge and understanding that scholars or people, supposed people of knowledge used to have back then. So that the scholar used to be one of the most influential position in the land. Well, guess what today, bro? Your scholars have no influence in reality. The World Economic Forum has more influence than your scholars. The United Nations has more influence than your scholars. The human rights organizations have more influence than your scholars. Vision 2030 has more influence than your scholars. Your scholars right now, they just looked at, recorded, oh, look at them, oh, look at them. Even the disbelievers, they go and have meetings and speak about your scholars and say, look, the power is being stripped away from them. In the 1970s, 1980s, they used to have so much strength. They used to have so much strength and authority. What happened to the authority now? Where did it go? Oh, your scholars speak and speak and speak and speak. What power do they have? Okay, they don't have power. So you're being insulted. You're being insulted by a group of people who have no power. It's crazy. You're being insulted by a group of people who have no power. And they say that they're afraid. You know, they're afraid because number one, the fiat currencies around the world. And if we leave the fiat currency, then that's going to be a great harm for the Muslims. Oh wow! This is Ainul Jahl. This is the eye of ignorance. Okay, this is the eye of ignorance. You're saying we can't leave the fiat currency in the world today because of how much harm it's going to cause to the Muslims. Okay, how about we mention the harms that it's causing the Muslims today? Let's call and mention the harms that it's causing the Muslims today. Number one, since you're extremely ignorant concerning fiat currency is built upon riba. Its foundation is riba. Its root is riba. The success of fiat currency is riba. The protection of fiat currency is riba. The maintenance of fiat currency is riba. Almost the beginning, the middle, and the end of fiat currency is riba. Okay, so you now are happy and you're content with the Muslims dealing with riba, eating riba, dealing with riba, spending with riba, and eating with riba. That's what you're happy with. That already shows me that you're completely ignorant, and shaitan has deceived you to such an extent that you're now supporting an interest-based system, yes, which you supposedly give lectures on, and how dangerous riba is, and eating riba, and Allah mentions that the angels will give you weapons and you're going to fight against Allah, and then you mention all these reminders and ahadith to do with riba. But when it comes to fighting the greatest form of interest in riba and usury in the face of this earth today, you defend it. Ajib, isn't it? It's almost as if you are like the Jews that Allah has mentioned in the Quran. You know the truth. You always tell us about riba and how harmful it is. But when it comes to application and acting upon supposedly what you know, you don't act upon it. You defend it. Fiat currency takes the rulings of gold and silver. You don't even know what gold and silver is. You don't know what fiat currency is. Please tell me what you know. It's crazy. When you hear them speak and mention these things, wallahi wa billahi wa tallahi, it's as if they do not know nothing. And this ayah keeps ringing back into my mind. أَوَلَوْ كَانَ آبَاؤُهُمْ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ شَيْئًا وَلَا يَهْتَدُونَ. I thought to myself, how can someone لا يعلمون شيئا? How can something not know something? How can someone not know something? And then when I hear these people speak about this topic, they say fiat currency takes the role of gold and silver. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. Wallahi wa billahi wa tallahi, the Jewish bankers love you when you say that. You are making fatwa, you are making rulings for the Jewish bankers. You're not making fatwa for the Muslim Ummah. You're making fatwa that's going to enslave the Muslim Ummah, that's going to mislead the Muslim Ummah, that's going to cause the slaughtering of the Muslim Ummah. And you are supposedly the one of knowledge that's supposed to be giving rulings. Who has even allowed you to give a ruling? You don't know the topic. You don't know the history of the topic. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know the dangers of what you're saying. You don't know about the consequences of what you're talking about. But supposedly these are the ones that are allowed to give Islamic rulings. Is that not crazy? They should be whipped and they should be lashed and they should be humiliated. There's no way that these people are allowed to talk about this topic. There is no way that they're allowed to talk about this topic. No way in living daylight are they allowed to speak about this topic. They don't know what fiat currency is. Ask them about the history of the Jewish merchants and how fiat currency came about today. Do you think they will tell you about that? Do you think they will tell you about the Dutch merchants? Are they going to tell you about the Dutch merchants? No, they're not. Are they going to tell you about the Bank of England? No, they're not. Are they going to tell you about the East Indian Company? No, they're not. Are they going to tell you about the Spanish Jews? No, they're not. Are they going to tell you about the Jews that were around these nations before fiat currency came about to being what it is today? Are they going to tell you about that? No, they're not. They don't know about that. They don't know about that, because if they had even a slight knowledge of that, they would have been so cautious in giving rulings concerning this topic. They don't know about that. They don't know that they're helping the Jews. How can they even show their faces? How can they even show their faces? That's the first thing. I don't know. That's the first point. Do they know about the history of fiat currency? No, they do not. Do they know what fiat currency is? No, they don't. Because how can you equate fiat currency to gold and silver? Those are two different metrics. They're different worlds. They're in different completely different world. Imagine going back to 1,000 years ago when they were using dinar and dirham. And then you bring a person a paper and you say this paper is exactly the same as gold and silver. They would have seen you as majnoon. They would have seen you as you're a crazy person. But today, the so-called knowledgeable ones are saying paper is like the same as silver and gold. How crazy and mental must you be? How crazy and mental must you be? And they say, oh, you're insulting our scholars. Wallahi, this is the least thing that could be said to these people. This is almost the kindest and nicest thing that can be said to these people. Because I'm sure if the companions were alive today, they would have said far more harsh and severe words to these people. Far more harsh and far more severe words than I am saying concerning these people. So they say fiat currency is halal because it takes the ruling of gold and silver. You stupid people. Paper is in abundance. Paper is in abundance. Let's first talk about the paper aspect, okay? Because the fiat currency is not paper. The fiat currency is GBP, euros, dollars, and majority of the trading that goes on with these currencies is online, it's digital. There's more trading, there's more activity online digitally than there is in paper, okay? So don't say that the fiat currency is paper. No, it's not paper. That's the first aspect. It's not paper. More activity goes on digitally, unless you're going to come out and say, oh, digital is paper. And I would not be surprised if you said digital is paper, because I would not be surprised concerning what you've said before, what you're going to say now, and what you're going to say tomorrow. I'm not surprised. So let's talk about the paper aspect. Fiat currency, the paper, is not like gold and silver. It never has been like gold and silver. It never has been equated to gold and silver. Gold is far more rare. The intrinsic value is in gold. Okay, within itself. The intrinsic value of your £20 or your £50 or your $10 or your $100 isn't in the piece of paper. The so-called value, the extrinsic, it's called, not intrinsic, because the note itself has no value. The extrinsic value of that note, that paper that you have, is in the number. $20 is worth more than $10. Why? Because they wrote 20 on it instead of 10. Not because of the paper, they use the same materials. It's the same paper. They've just written 20, 50, 100 on that paper. And apparently, by changing the number of something, then that means it's worth more. In what world has that ever meant anything? If you went back 1,000 years ago when they used to use gold and silver, and someone wrote 1 million on the gold coin, it did not mean that it's worth more than another gold coin that has 1 written on it. Why? Because gold is measured in such a way. It is from the most just. It is the most just financial system, because that is what the Prophet ﷺ spoke about. When the Prophet was giving rulings, he was speaking about gold and silver. He wasn't speaking about Great British pounds. He wasn't speaking about dollars. And he wasn't speaking about euros. You foolish, ignorant, stupid, dumb people. He wasn't talking about that. And wallahi, these people's ignorance, number one, and wallahi, these people's silence, number two, is what is aiding and what is supporting the Muslims in being slaughtered. It's crazy. So-called knowledgeable scholars are aiding in the killings and the slaughterings of Muslims around the world, humiliation around the world, slaughterings of different kinds around the world. They are supporting it. That's why they call the devil the mute devil. The one who's silent against falsehood is called a mute devil. Why is he called a mute devil? Because he's still supporting falsehood. He's still supporting falsehood. He's called a mute devil because he supports falsehood. He is supporting the killings that's going on. He's supporting all of these things that are going on. Ajib, gharib. So paper, number one, is not the same as gold and silver. Anyone who says that is majnoon. He's crazy. But apparently, these are scholars, so they should be honored and looked up upon, and respected. They should be respected. 1,000 years ago, they would have been called crazy, but today they're going to be someone respected. That's how you know you live in a cuckoo world today. You live in a crazy times. You live in crazy, strange, weird times. That the ones who would have been known as crazy people are today looked at as scholars. Now you understand why the Muslims are being slaughtered and killed around the world. Because the supposed crazy ones are now looked at as knowledgeable ones and scholars. It's crazy itself. That alone is crazy. So let's talk about the paper aspect. The paper aspect is not equivalent to gold and silver whatsoever. Now let's talk about the systems that the fiat currency is upon. Is not the same as gold and silver. I'll give you an example. Fiat currency is dependent upon government systems, government rulings, government overlook, okay? So inflation is going to be influenced by the government. Money printing is going to be influenced by the government. Debt and all of this is going to be influenced by the government. The debasing of the currency is going to be influenced by the government. Now let's talk about gold. Who owns gold? The euros, I will tell you who owns the euros. The European Central Bank owns the euros. The pound, I will tell you who owns the pound. The Bank of England owns the pound. The dollar, I will tell you who owns the dollar. The Federal Reserves of America owns the dollar. Tell me who owns gold. Who owns gold and silver? Who owns it? Oh, that is why the system of falsehood starts to crash. Because they don't own gold. They don't own silver. Their fathers don't own gold. And their brothers don't own silver. None of them own silver. Now do you understand how just Islam is? Because gold cannot be as manipulated as the financial system. Yes, they've tried before where they mix it with other metals and all of this, but guess what? There is signs and ways that people can determine whether this is full-on 24-karat gold or if it's something that's going to be diluted with something else that people can tell, they can see, they can understand. But the fiat currency, bro, wallahi wa billahi wa tallahi, and Allah is my witness. You can be working for 50 years earning fiat currency. Let's say you want to earn dollars, 50 years you can earn dollars. But if the central bank, the Federal Reserve of America, wants there to be hyperinflation, yes? And then hyperinflation happens in one day. Those 50 years that you were saving those dollars, and Allah is my witness, over one night, those 50 years of savings are going to disappear as if it's nothing. You can't even buy a single piece of bread with it. That's happened in Weimar Republic in Germany. It's happened in Zimbabwe. It's happened in Venezuela. It's happened in Lebanon. And I gave an example of how it happened in Lebanon. That someone could have been working for 50 years and he saved million Lebanese pounds. Yes? And overnight, the value of those Lebanese pounds were devalued 99%. So he lost 99% value of wherever he worked for his entire life. And you're going to tell me that's not aynul dhulm, that's not the eye of oppression. Are you going to tell me that's not the eye of oppression? So look at how these people, they favor the Jewish bankers over the Muslims. Because the Muslims are the ones who are earning and working for this fiat currency. Do you think the Jewish bankers are working for it? No, they don't. Because they have rulings where they're allowed to print. They are allowed to print money. That is another point. You can't print gold. Gold is more on a fairer level. Whoever finds the gold keeps the gold. If you find gold, you keep that gold. But this is not a fairer level because the bank is allowed to print as much as it wants and you're not allowed to. You dare buy a printer. Firstly, the printers, they already have a scanner on the fiat currency notes. So the printers are already designed, the modern day printers are designed in a way to identify whether this is a note, and it won't print it firstly because of how the printers have been designed. But if you try to find a way and you get that currency and you print it out, the police are going to come knocking down your door and are going to imprison you because you committed a crime. But then you go to them and say, but this is what the bankers are doing. They're going to say, no. There's one law for the banker and another law for you, you peasant. You peasant. There's another law for you, you peasant. So then they try to say that paper, the fiat currency is the same as gold and silver. Are you stupid? Are you stupid? It exposes, number one, your ignorance concerning what's going on. And number two, how can the two ever be equated? The two have never been equated. Now, paper fiat currency. Let's talk about fiat currency, okay? Fiat currency is backed by nothing. Zilch. Nada. It was once upon a time backed by gold and silver because the people have always known gold and silver to be real money. Until the past 50, 60, 70 years when supposedly they've had some brain hemorrhage and they've somehow forgot what money actually is. But in the past 50, 60, 70 years, money was backed by gold. That was the same for British pounds, sterling, dollars, and they were backed by gold until they left the gold standard and they just basically said, guess what? The dollar is now backed by absolutely zilch, nada. And when the paper dollar was once upon a time backed by gold, they couldn't print as much as they wanted to because that would have exposed them because it's backed by gold. Do you have that amount of gold that you're printing? No, you don't. So you can't do it. The moment they left the gold standard, the printing machine went off. They started printing trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions. They were just printing trillions and trillions. So where in your right mind can you ever say, from the Islamic point of view, that fiat currency takes the position of gold and silver? Wallahi wa billahi wa tallahi, using the seed of dates as a form of currency is far more just than using the fiat currency as a form of currency. You know why? Because the date seed is limited. There's a finite amount. But with the fiat currency, the printers can keep going on. Quantitative easing, they call it. fractional reserve banking, whatever they want to call it, okay, the machines will keep going on and on and on and on and on and on and on. Going on and on and on. But the date, they don't just keep going on and on and on and on and on. It's a finite amount. You have to wait for a certain time for the tree to grow and all of this. That's why, Islamically, dates can be used as a form of money. Barley can be used as a form of money. Silver is used as a form of money. Gold is used as a form of money. Where in your right mind has paper ever been used as a form of money? These guys are so far gone. They're so far gone. The doctors are far gone. That's why you have to look after yourself concerning your health, because they're going to be poisoning you. That's number one. The so-called scholars are so far gone. You need to be saving yourself concerning your religion and your worldly life as well, because they're so far gone. Forget about them and the fitna of Dajjal. Allah knows best how they will ever survive the fitna of Dajjal. But you have to even save yourself concerning the scholars. So if all of these so-called people that you're supposed to be looking up to are so far gone, then what are you supposed to do? Hold on to the root of the tree and keep away from everyone, as the Prophet ﷺ said, and hold on to it with your molar teeth if you have to. Hold on to the roots of that tree and keep away from everyone, because guess what? These people ain't here for your benefit. They're not here to tell you things that are truly for your benefit. Once upon a time, doctors were there to look after your health. Once upon a time, scholars were there to actually look after your worldly life and look after your hereafter. But the days that you're living in now, yes, the days you're living in now, you live in a day, okay, where communication is widespread. You can see people being bombed, and in the same channel, the same social media, you will see your Muslim brother being slaughtered. So from the same video, you will see a video where people are dancing, music all over the place, yeah, with thobes on. They're dancing with thobes on. And then you swipe to another video, you're going to see babies' limbs, and that is the time and era you live in. You don't know how messed of an era you lived in is. You don't know how messed it is these days. You don't know how strange these days are. If there were good people, as it's made out to seem, that are influential, that are out there, then the world would have actually seen some good. You wouldn't have seen dancing in one video, and in the next video, you see slaughtering of your own brothers. Crazy, isn't it? Crazy, isn't it? And that dancing, let's speak about that dancing. Who is behind that dancing? It's Vision 2030, which is trying to bring entertainment and trying to bring tourism into the country. So now let's speak about this system. Let's talk about Vision 2030. You would have thought Vision 2030 and those behind Vision 2030 are going to care about the Muslim Ummah, tell them about the fiat currency and how it's owned by the Jews and how it's harming them and how it's being used to kill the Muslim brothers. Oh, you can't say anything. Because who's defending these same people there? The United States military is defending them. The US Army has been defending them. So when the US Army with all their weaponry are there, looking over your shoulder, can you truly benefit the Muslim Ummah? No, you can't. No, you can't. Like America, if you look at, for example, when Trump was sitting with Mohammed bin Salman, they mock Saudi. The guys there showing all the pictures of the jets that they sold, and they said this one was a few billions, that one was a few billions, that one was a few billions. They take billions and then give what? They give them their military weapons. They're looking after. And then Trump's like, yeah, they need to pay for our protection. They need to pay for our protection. They mock these people. They mock them. So, paper is not the same as gold and silver. Number two, riba. Riba is an increase. When you just add an increase to something, okay? When you increase, so for example, you take a loan from someone. The loan is 500 British pounds. The loan is supposed to be, I pay you back 500 pounds, okay? That is permissible in the aspect that I will loan you back what I have taken as a debt from you. But what riba is, no, you're not going to pay me back what I gave you, 500. You're going to give me 550. And you're going to say, why do I have to give you 50? I only took 500 from you. And he's going to say, oh, that's interest. You need to pay for interest. You need to pay for interest. So interest is adding that increase, that extra 50 that you just added, that's come from nowhere. Zilch. It just came from your mind. This is what fiat currency is. It's backed by nothing. It's just from their own minds. They just print it out. That is it. That's why they say fiat currency is like riba on steroids. Because they're printing it out en masse, millions and billions and trillions. And it's backed by nothing. It's nothing. It's nothing. They've just added on another extra 1 billion. Where did that 1 billion come from? I don't know. I printed it out. This is riba on steroids. You're trying to tell me about Islamic rulings with gold and silver, and you're trying to give me Islamic rulings with pounds and dollars, and how about you give the Islamic ruling on whether it's even permissible? You said it's permissible already. But how can you say it's permissible? How can you say fiat currency is halal? Is this not one of the greatest lies against Allah and His religion? That you say fiat currency is halal. They say it's halal, it's permissible. So riba is permissible. Having the Muslims killed is permissible. Having the Muslims misled, that's being financed, is permissible. Printing, which is allowed for a group of people and not for other people, is permissible. So preferential laws for certain people over others is permissible. So what is haram in the religion? Tell me what's haram in the religion. What is haram in the religion? Tell me, explain to me what's haram in the religion. Fiat currency is riba on steroids. It is. And the Jews are laughing because they control the world's financial system. Because why? Why is it? The reason why is because, speaking about the rulers, haram according to them. That's the thing. Speaking about the rulers, haram, okay? But looking after the people isn't prioritized. You see, the Salaf, they would keep away from the doors of the rulers. And they would direct their attention to the people. You see, they would direct their attention to the people. Them speaking the truth to the people was worth more to them than any ruler on the face of this earth. The rulers were looked down upon. Okay? The doors of the ruler was looked down upon. The people focused, the scholars in the Salaf, they focused on the people. Okay? They focused on the people. Today, it's the opposite way round. The rulers are the ones that are focused on. The attention is directed towards the rulers. As for the people, can't do much anyways, can we? Fiat currency, I'm eating from fiat currency. Come on. Yes, your sheikh is eating from riba. And I will testify on the day of judgment to Allah that your sheikh, who is eating Saudi Riyal, is eating from riba. Crazy, isn't it? This now destroys the whole narrative that these are so-called people of knowledge all of a sudden. Crazy. It's crazy. The least they could have done was speak out against it. But they haven't even spoken out against it. They speak for it. They speak for it. Riba is in every aspect of fiat currency. I'll give you an example. Inflation happens. Why does inflation happen? Because the banks, they print out so much money and there's so much money in the supply. And because of that, i.e. printing that money, which is riba, because they're just increasing something from nothing, which is riba, that's the beginning. And the people are harmed because of that riba, because now inflation is going to happen. And that means there's going to be an increase in the price of goods and services that you could have had already. So this is the consequences from one aspect of riba. So what the central banks have to do to counter this riba is to do another form of riba, okay? And that other form of riba is to increase the interest rate. So the central bank, the Bank of England, the Federal Reserves, the ECB, European Central Bank, what it's going to do is it's going to increase interest rates. And that's supposedly going to cool the inflation. Temporarily. Okay, temporarily. That's number one. It's not a proper solution. It's a temporary solution to this. So to deal with the consequences of riba, you then have to do extra riba. It's crazy, isn't it? And you cannot do any so-called Islamic. You can't say, oh, we're not going to increase the interest rates. You're forced to increase the interest rates. Erdogan, some time ago, when the inflation in Turkey was up, he was like, no, they were trying to take the Islamic stance. It's not halal, it's haram. It's not permissible in Islam. Interest is evil. Interest is the root of evil. He was talking the talk about all of this, yeah? The inflation kept going up, boom, 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 50%, 60%, 60 something percent, 70%. It just kept going up. And then what happened? The central bankers in Turkey were telling him, listen, you need to calm down. You need to increase the interest rates. And boom, he kicked the first central bank, the head of Central Bank of Turkey, he kicked out. The second one came out, said the same thing. He kicked out. A third one came. Then he started to slowly lower his tone. Guess what the interest rate in Turkey is today? It is sitting at 50%. The interest rate in Turkey is sitting at 50%. Do you not know how great of an interest rate that is? 50%. Do you not know how mad that is? Because the wildfire of inflation is so great in Turkey, it's like 60, 70% if I'm not mistaken. So then they have to increase this. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Can you hear me? The Wi-Fi just decided to just disconnect from the device whilst speaking about this. So there's other means that we can of course take. Can you hear me, yeah? Okay, alhamdulillah. What has Turkey done? Turkey has increased the interest rate to 50%. 50% is almost unheard of. For a guy who was talking about Islam this and riba is the root of this, 50% is crazy, 50% is crazy, 50% is crazy. But that is what has to be done. Where's your sheikh to speak out against this? Where is your sheikh that's going to look out for the Muslims in Turkey who are dealing with Turkish lira that is debasing every single year? And the savings of the people are decreasing every single year. And the strength of their currency can't even buy them what it could have bought them 10 years. Where are the scholars that are supposed to care for these people? What happened to them? What happened to them? So care for yourself. Look after yourself. Think good for yourself. Do what is good for yourself, because guess what? Ain't no one caring about you. If that's what you think. If you think you live today in a world where people care about you and people care about humans, and how about we care about the people and put the people before interests and put the people before money and put the people before profits. No, you don't live in that world. You live in a world where profit is far more honorable than you. People would make an extra buck. They don't care about loyalty to you. They don't care about speaking the truth to you. They don't care about respecting you and honoring you. No, you don't live in that world. You don't live in that world. Look after yourself. Look after yourself. This is why those people that talk about Islamic finance, Islamic mortgage, the disbelievers laugh at these people. They say, how are you calling this Islamic mortgage? When you're just changing things around. You're deceiving the people. That's all you're doing. It's still conventional banking based on interest and riba, but you're now calling it Islamic banking. Imagine I had alcohol, but I wanted to legalize or normalize this alcohol to the Muslims. Instead of calling it alcohol, what would I say? I would have probably called it what? I'll call it what? What would I call it? Like some nice name. Think of a nice name that you'd call it. The cool, refreshing drink. You call it the cool, refreshing drink. It's alcohol. But because I called it the cool, refreshing drink, or the Islamic cool, refreshing drink, supposedly that now removes the alcohol aspect. No, it doesn't. It's still haram. Call it Islamic, it's still haram. Call it Islamic, it's still alcohol. Call it Islamic, it's still riba, it's still interest. So, how do you flourish in this nature? Guess what? You flourish with riba. You flourish with debt. How do governments flourish? They flourish with debt. Just like that, you flourish with debt. You flourish with interest. You flourish with riba. That's how you flourish. That is how the entire system is made. The entire system is made. Riba is going to harm the populace. The way to calm that riba is to then do more riba. And then for you to be succeeded in that environment, you then have to go do riba. Come on. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. You dare try be so-called Islamic. Let me try take the halal route. Let me try make halal money. What halal money you talking about firstly? The fiat currency ain't even halal. What are you talking about? It's not even halal. No matter how many of your so-called teachers and your so-called scholars say it's halal, it is not halal. And secondly, the reason why so many people can't make halal money is because the entire foundation is haram. You can't grow so many trees in the land when the seeds are dead. No, you're not. You're going to go back to that land year after year and there's nothing growing because it's dead. The foundation is evil and corrupt. How do you expect something beautiful and pure and noble and righteous to grow from that which is evil and corrupt? Try to do it halal, 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 halal. What halal are you talking about? What aspect of fiat currency is halal? Is it halal that the Jewish bankers own fiat currency? Is that the halal aspect? Is that halal aspect? Is that the halal aspect that you can just print money out of thin air and then use that money to pay people to make bombs, and then use that money to pay people to drive those jets, and then pay people to drop those bombs onto your Muslim brothers? Is that the aspect that's halal? Tell me. What aspect of fiat currency is halal? Tell me what aspect of it is halal. Or is the aspect halal where you could save for 50, 60 years of your life and then it's going to be wiped out overnight? 50, 60 years of your life gone to nothing. Is that the aspect that's halal? Tell me. Is the oppressive nature of it halal? Is it the murderous nature of it that's halal? Or is it, what aspect of it is halal? Where you print out money out of thin air and then you use that money to buy the organs of children around the world, and then you sex traffic females around the world to then get those paper monies again. Is that the aspect that's halal? Tell me what aspect of it is halal. Wallahi wa billahi wa tallahi. If the financial aspect in this world today was rectified, so much of the world's corruption would come to an end overnight. Just like how your savings would come, you know how your savings would just disappear overnight? So much of the world's corruption would end overnight because of the financial system. The financial system is going, the machine is pumping in and out, in and out. Do you know why? Because so many people around, millions and billions of people are working to push this machine 24/7. The moment they stop getting paid, the machine stops moving. The machine stops moving. But apparently there's no knowledgeable, righteous, so-called scholar that has the strength and knowledge and wisdom and nobility that can be of any sort of influence in this world, that is going to then create a financial system that is actually Islamic. But what is going to happen to him the moment he tries to do that? He's going to get Gaddafi, and he's going to get, Saddam Hussein. That's what he's going to get. That's what he's going to get. And the moment you start to change the financial system is the moment you start to deal with the heads of the disbelievers. Because the heads of the disbelievers' biggest tool in the world today is the financial system. They don't care when you talk about this Ash'ari, that Ash'ari. They don't care about when you talk about this guy's a Haddadi, that guy's a Ikhwani, that guy who's this. They don't care about that. The moment you start to talk about their tool that they're using to oppress and harm the Muslim Ummah around the entire world today, that is when they are going to start to wake up and start dealing with you. But until then, be happy with your little tea, and be happy with your little palaces, and be happy with your little buildings and your little cars, and be happy with your little iron shamar, and be happy with all of that. Because guess what? They could not give a toss about you. And you would have thought these people had that knowledge and wisdom to understand this, but clearly they don't. They don't. And the fact of the matter is, they grew up in deserts and they have little information and they just go by the tiny little information that they have. And that is it. Zilch. If they see that as an insult, don't be insulted. Because your rulers themselves say, we used to be Bedouins. Don't be insulted by that. Don't be insulted to say that you came from deserts and you don't really know much about anything. Don't be insulted. You should love the truth. When someone comes to tell you the truth that you don't know much about much, you should accept it. But they don't accept it because they see it as an insult. And that itself is the problem. So, may Allah have mercy upon us. Look, write down a form of corruption in the world. Just write down, and I implore all of you to write down one aspect of corruption that is in this world. Write down on this live right now, write down one form of aspect of corruption, and I'll wait for you. And I will link it back to the financial system. I mean, slavery is a common one. Slavery is two types. There's physical enslavement, and there's what other form of enslavement? Mental enslavement, okay? Let's talk about the physical slavery first. Physical slavery, again, it occurs in this world. If you have the right amount of money, my brother, I promise you, you can buy a slave. You know, they say, where ended slavery? Slavery's ended. Biggest nonsense. If you got money, my brother, you can get a baby killed in China, and that baby, the organs are going to be ripped out, and those organs are going to be put into a little ice cube, and it's going to be shipped to you, bro. You know, when they say we've ended slavery, they haven't ended nothing. They ended their own delusions. They haven't ended anything else. Slavery is not ended. Slavery is common. Maybe you want 5 females from Ukraine. Maybe you want a few females from Russia. Maybe you want a few females from East Europe. Maybe, bro, they will ship them for you, put them into a plane and bring them to you. I'm talking about slavery ended. What happened to the slavery of Jeffrey Epstein when they were putting kids into little planes and then sending them to the island to have done to them whatever was done to them? What happened to slavery then? Oh, because slavery never ended. Slavery is a delusion. It's an illusion. To say slavery ended is an illusion. It's a lie. It's corrupt. If you want to buy someone, if you want to buy a female, you can buy a female. If you want to buy a child, you can buy a child. If you want to buy a dog, you can buy a dog. If you want to buy a cat, you can buy a cat. If you want to buy body parts, you can buy body parts. Do you want to buy the hand of someone? I can promise you there's a person who's going to go and cut someone's hand off and he's going to ship that hand to you. Do you want someone's tongue? Someone's tongue is going to be cut right now, and then as soon as you pay that money, boom, it's going to be shipped to you in a nice little fashion, and then you can hang that tongue up in your wall if you want. Physical slavery, back there, backed by the financial system. Let's talk about mental slavery. Mental slavery is through ways of entertainment, through ways of corruption, through ways of misinformation and lies and corruption, deception, education system. What backs the education system? Financing from the governments. That's number one. What backs the entertainment media giants? It's the financing again. When they make these movies about lies concerning your religion, lies concerning your prophet, lies concerning your way of life and your culture, when they make movies lying about you, what is back behind it? There's a financial, because the actors aren't there working for free. They're earning a salary. They're taking money. Do you understand? Okay. So the entertainment is there. It's going to lie to you. It's going to lie to you. It's going to lie to you. It's going to, what is it? It's going to... Look, the entertainment is made to seem such a way where it makes you laugh and giggle. All the lights are bright. You know, the bright lights are shining and it makes you feel comfortable. What you don't understand is that clip that you're laughing at is insulting your religion. It's insulting your Rabb. It's insulting your messenger. It's insulting the laws of your Rabb. It's insulting the laws and the message of the Prophet ﷺ, and you're laughing because of how deceptive the entertainment is. You just think it's a nice little laughter and all the lights are shining bright. You don't even see the deception that's going on. And you laugh and you laugh and you laugh. Mental slavery. Football. People go crazy over guys in shorts kicking a ball. That is what it is. It's like guys in boxers running after a ball with super long socks. Imagine having boxers with super long socks and you're running around. Would you say this guy is a man? Would you say this is a man? Or would you say this is some delusional child adult? Some child adult. This is a child man. It's a child man. He's running around with boxers and long socks. When have socks ever got that long? He's running like that with his boxers and his long socks and he's running after a ball. And then you see the people in the crowd, they're crying. Did you see how he scored? And they're screaming and shouting and the emotions are being amplified. Everything is increasing. Oh, did you see the way he scored a goal? Wow. Then they start to rip their clothes off and they start to show their hairy chests out to the world. And he starts showing his muscles like he's some big person. And then another kid is there crying. Oh, for what? For grown-up guys in boxer shorts with long socks kicking a ball that's what? Filled with air. It's air. It's like all these football fans are airheads that are so happy when they see an air ball that's being kicked around. And they're happy with that. They're happy with that. And look at the two worlds, yeah? Look at the two worlds. The football, who's making the football? Some guy in Pakistan is knitting the football together, okay? He's putting the football together. He's making hundreds and thousands of footballs a day. And he's getting paid like $1, $2, okay? And he's there, miskeen. He's just knitting a little ball in the deserts of Pakistan. And he's got his, clothes, the traditional clothes on. And he's sitting in like a sandy building. And he's just knitting this ball together in his own world. He's got his own family to go to, feed his own family. And the ball is then going to be shipped to Europe and America. And they're going to kick the ball. Ronaldo scored. Did you see Ronaldo? And everyone's going crazy. And then the man who's making this ball, he's got completely different life. How is it that little ball is making people go so crazy? Because they're mentally enslaved. That's why they say entertainment is enter a containment. You enter a containment. Your mind is contained within what you're consuming and what you're watching. That's why it's called entertainment. Television, they say it's tell a lie. Tell a lie vision. Tell a lie, lie, and you're just watching and consuming. That is it. They mentally enslave you to think that football is nice and it brings the community together. What community? Is a community of airheads. That's what it brings together. It brings together a community of airheads. Community of airheads that like watching grown guys in boxes run around after a ball. So people are enslaved mentally around the world. How many people love football? Millions. Even the so-called Muslims. Oh, did you see Messi? Oh, Messi scored a goal. And he starts to cry. Not once would you have ever seen him in his entire life cry about Allah and His Messenger and the companions and the blood, sweat and tears that they went through and the severe trials and tribulations they went through. But he's going to cry because Messi scored a goal. He's going to cry because Messi scored a goal. Messi knows nothing about him and is of no benefit to his entire existence and breathing of living and thinking. But he's going to cry for Messi. Did you see what Messi did? Did you see what Messi did? No one cares about what Messi did. Kafir, mujrim, no one cares what he did. So, this is the thing. The minds are enslaved by entertainment that's backed by financial systems. There's billions in the football scene. There's billions in the NFL scene. There's billions in the NBA scene. There's billions in the NHL scene. There's billions in the NBL scene, the National Baseball League. There's so much. Billions and billions and billions. So people are mentally enslaved that way. Someone said wars and hungers. Of course, wars and hungers. Wars and hungers, of course. Shall I give you one way in how, this is how deep it is, yeah? Let's say I'm doing a GoFundMe. And I want my GoFundMe to make so much money. Do you know what I'm going to do? Something that is attributed to me. I'll give you an example. Let's say Taylor Swift, who's this female evil corrupt singer, Taylor Swift is trying to take charity money. She's trying to get a lot of money from the people. So what can you do if you want to make a lot of money? I know what you can do. You know what you can do? You can have a whole agenda where children are supposedly going to be stabbed. And what were those children doing? Those children were in a Taylor Swift little event. So when the news are going to pump it out to everyone, everyone's going to cry, those little kids, they got stabbed, they got killed. But what the news is going to keep reaffirming to them? Taylor Swift event. And now everyone's now going to go to this new this charity or this new place that Taylor Swift wants to make money from the people. And guess what? Everyone's going to donate to Taylor Swift. What does Taylor Swift have to do with these children being stabbed? Oh yeah, they were in a Taylor Swift event. And the people won't know because the people they can't fathom this. They don't have the mental capacity to understand that this is what goes on in the world. This is what goes on in the world. If I want to make money, and I see not a lot of people are making money, you know what I'm going to do? I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to make this whole story about me. Not about me, about something that you're going to cry and be sad about and be emotional about. But I'm just going to make sure there's a slight aspect where I'm somewhat mentioned multiple times so that you can come to my direction. And then you're going to see I'm asking for money and you're going to give me all the money because you're crying and you're all sad and all emotional because of what happened. You keep being sad, you fool. Keep being emotional, you fool. Oh, little girl's got stabbed. Here's my money. Yeah, you best give me your money because best believe I'm going to have other people killed as well. And I best believe you're going to be giving me your money again. You're going to be giving me your money again. So, do you see how people can be killed? Just to push a narrative and a story, just to take more money from the people. Do you not understand the world that you live in? Do you not see how corrupt it is? People say that's hard. How can that happen? It can happen because you're unaware of what's actually going on in the world. This is almost surface level what I'm speaking about. It goes far more deep and intricate than this. The Vatican asking for 100 Palestinian kids that are orphans. Oh, that's easy, man. As I said, and they dare to complain about immigrant attacking their women instead of watching football. I don't even want to speak about those people, man. I don't want to speak about them. Mention corruption, and I will show you how financial system is involved. Allah Mustaan. So, those people that try to give like Islamic rulings, they say Islamic mortgage. Firstly, there's no such thing as Islamic mortgage, okay? Because the Muslim, mu'min, believer, muwahhid, he's advised to pay his debt off before he dies. And if not, he will write it in his will so someone else in his family can pay it off. But a mortgage is a death pledge. It's a death pledge, okay, with you and the bank. With a death pledge with you and the bank. How can someone come and say there's such thing as Islamic mortgage? It's like me coming to you and saying Islamic fornication. Or fornication, not fornication. Islamic fornication. You think I'm crazy. But we don't look at these people as if they're crazy. They are crazy. They are crazy. No such thing as Islamic mortgage. And you know what's, when you look at Islamic mortgages and you look at modern mortgages, Islamic mortgage is more oppressive than Islamic mortgage is more oppressive than the conventional mortgage. It's so ironic. It's so ironic. It's so ironic. The Islamic mortgage is more oppressive. Do you know why? Because the Islamic mortgage is trying to take extra loopholes, and because they're taking extra loopholes like the Yahud do, it's going to cost a lot more. So you're paying for a lot more for the same thing that you could have got if you paid cheaper for the other thing. The reason why Islamic mortgages cost more than conventional mortgages is because they do extra loopholes to try and make it sound Islamic when it has nothing to do with Islam. You're being oppressed far more than if you were to go to the disbelievers themselves. It's crazy, isn't it? It's crazy. And you know, it's funny, they say, oh, Islamic mortgage has nothing to do with riba. There's no riba. But then when you read the terms and conditions, they will tell you that the fees that you pay monthly is going to increase if the central bank of that country increases the interest rate. What? So when the interest rate increases, you're going to be increasing the fee as well. Ironic. It's almost as if you're connected to the same financial system that you're supposedly against. Ironic. And ask them. This is Islamic mortgage, right? Okay. So I supposedly own the property, right? Oh no, you don't own the property. We own the property until you pay everything off. Bro, I might as well go to a conventional bank. They do the same thing. If you go to a conventional bank and say, do I own this property that I'm taking a mortgage on? They're going to say, oh no, we own it until you pay everything back. So you call it Islamic mortgage, but you're doing exactly the same thing a bank is doing. Secondly, Islamic mortgage provider, where do you get the finance to pay for this property? Oh, we get a loan from the bank. Oh, really? Really? You get a loan from the bank, which is interest, okay? And then you're now getting me to pay the... I might as well cut the middleman. You're being the middleman between me and the bank, but now you're calling yourself Islamic. I might as well remove you and deal with the bank myself. That's going to be cheaper for me. It's going to be better for me. It's the exact same thing that you're offering. The only difference is they're being truthful. They're telling me haram. You're telling me halal. That's the difference. That's why they're more honorable than you in this field. They will lie. They will tell the truth in this. They will say, listen, we are going to do interest. These guys are going to say profit. Profit. We're not going to call it interest. We're going to call it profit. Fa'ida. We're going to call it fa'ida. That's what we're going to call it. We're going to call it profit. The bank might as well just change from interest and call it profit as well. Why not? Why not? Why not just call interest profit? Go and get all the interest you can in this world. And when someone asks, where did you get all this interest from? Say, no, this is not interest. This is profit. This is profit. It's so funny because of how ironic it is. It's so ironic. Another reason why they don't use in gold and silver. Do you want to know another reason why they don't use gold and silver? Another reason why they don't use gold and silver is because where is a large majority of the world's gold? Where is it? If someone was to ask you, where is a large majority of the world's gold? Where is it? What would you answer? What would you answer? What would you answer? Then that is going to uncover and unroot a brand new conversation. That is it. Africa provides almost the largest amount of gold in the entire world. France get their gold from Africa. Switzerland get their gold from Africa. Many countries around the world get their gold from Africa. They get it from Africa. Whether it's Ghana, Angola, whether it's South Africa, whether it's East Africa, whether it's, what's the other country? Uganda, Zimbabwe, Sudan. Africa has almost the largest amount of gold. If you were to make gold and silver the system again, who would be from the most prosperous of people? Fun fact, it wouldn't be a large majority of the countries. That's the thing. And like, I'll be very, very honest with you. Okay, I'm from Africa myself, but Africans are some of the dumbest people in the entire world. They are some of the dumbest people in the entire world. If we believe in anything called IQ, then they have some of the lowest IQ in the face of this earth. They are some of the dumbest people on the face of this earth. You could say because that's a lack of information, or you could say that's a lack of drive to actually want to learn more. They, generally, are some of the dumbest people. That's why the disbelievers have a stronghold. They have a stronghold in Africa because of how dumb and ignorant and stupid the people are there. Imagine Britain, the United Kingdom. They barely have any natural resources in the entire world. Forget about gold, silver, any of these diamonds, whatever it is, yeah? But that tiny island, they were able to go to, Zier? They were able to go to other places in Africa and take as much gold as they could. What happened to those people in Africa? What happened to them? What are they happy with? You give them a house, you give them some food, and that's it. They're going to be with their people all the day, just talking, drinking tea, talking. They're not talking in progression. They're not talking with progression. They're talking about community meeting. Everyone to speak each other. Let's do this. Let's do that. Go home, sleep, finished. That is it. And they're content with that. But they don't understand the world that you live in. There are people that aren't content with that. There are people that want to enslave you. There are people that want to take everything away from you. There are people that will want to harm you and destroy you. If you're not up to date and you're not keeping up to date, you're going to be enslaved like the people in Africa are. But that is another aspect why gold and silver won't be used as the original, because a large majority of it is in Africa. I'll give you an example now. Let's say you live in Sudan, and Sudan has tons and tons. If I'm not mistaken, Uganda found like 14 trillion worth of gold. But let's say you're in Sudan and you find tons and tons of gold, and we've gone back to the olden days. You now have so much gold. You can then trade with the people. You can benefit your people far more than maybe you went to Saudi Arabia maybe. And then they barely have anything there in the deserts. And maybe they have a few little things here and there. But you have more influence in benefiting. And this is where the entire Muslim Ummah comes into play now. Because you may control Sudan, but then Sudan has gold. And that gold will benefit the Muslim Ummah. So there may be another Muslim country that doesn't have much gold. But then you can benefit. It will benefit all the Muslims around all of the nations that you control. That's why gold is amazing. Yes, that's where UAE get their gold from. And why do you think Sudan, there's so much fighting in Sudan? Because when there's fighting in Sudan, you know what's amazing? When people fight one another, I can come and then take things without no disturbance. Because you're so busy focusing on something else, I'm so busy on taking what's yours. That's another thing that goes on in this world. When two sides are fighting, don't forget there's a third side that's stealing things from that country. Okay, so, and I've seen it. I've seen how they go to Sudan, they go to Uganda. I'm literally in a group where there's this guy from Pakistan. He is gathering gold from Africa, and he has his own shipping company, and he takes it to the royal family in UAE himself. I know he does this. I see the videos. I've been in contact with him. I see how it happens. So, Wallahu musta'an, man. The world, there's so much corruption in the world, man. There's so much corruption in the world. So the whole point of this live is, if the financial system is based upon riba, my question to you is, what riba are you trying to run away from? You know, they say forex exchange is haram because you're exchanging dollars for pounds, and you're supposed to do dollar for dollar, euro for euro, because the Prophet ﷺ said gold for gold, silver for silver. Firstly, you dumb stupid person, gold and dollar is not the same thing. So that's destroyed your entire argument there from the beginning. They're not the same thing. You can't call them the same thing when they're different. Secondly, dollar for dollar, dollar is basically nothing. That's what it is. It's backed by absolutely nothing. If it's backed by absolutely nothing, then you're dealing with absolutely nothing. That's the reality. You're trading with absolutely nothing. Fiat currency is backed by nothing. That's what they tell you themselves. Let me see if I can find. You know, the Bank of England, they made a video about gold that they have. They have so much gold, so much gold. Bank of England video. We'll go through this video. was Wi-Fi is not working. It's not working. I wonder why. It was working perfectly well. They even say this themselves. Let's go block ad. Back to the video. Let me find the exact part they talk about it. So listen to this.
Issue them with an IOU.
Okay.
Form of money.
How did it turn into, okay, the bank needs to hold this much gold? What was the process? Like, take me back.
So obviously gold's been used for quite a number of years as a form of money. First of all, gold coins themselves. But the problem with gold coins is they're actually quite heavy to carry around.
Can't flip it, though.
Exactly. So what people started to do was they would take their gold coins to a goldsmith and the goldsmith would issue them with an IOU.
Okay.
And over time, people realised that actually using those IOUs to pay for goods and services was actually easier than actually going and getting the gold and lugging it around.
Okay.
And those IOUs eventually developed into what we now know as banknotes.
That's fascinating, isn't it?
Banknotes, you see that? So it's IOU, which is a promissory note, meaning I promise to pay you this amount in gold. But then they left the gold standard, which means if you go to the bank today and you have a £20 note, a $100 bill, you go to the bank and you say, can I get my $100 worth of gold? They ain't going to give you no $100 worth of gold. They're not going to give you £50 worth of gold. They're not. They're not. So, and they say it. She says in this video that it's backed by the hope of the people. It's backed by hope. It's backed by hope. It's not backed by gold. It's not backed by something tangible that you can actually touch. It's the hope of the people. The people hope in it. That's why it's there. That's why it's working. Because the people hope in it. The people are dumb and stupid. Honestly, truly, I cannot say this more enough. It's not arrogance, it's the truth. I cannot say this more enough. The people have sacrificed what was real money for what is fake. And I gave an example of how gold is better to have than fiat currency, because each year your currency is being debased and devalued. The money you have today is not enough to buy you what you could have bought 5 years ago. Do you know that? The money you have today is not enough to buy you what you could have got 5 years ago. Why? Because it's devaluing every single year. But the goods and the products are increasing every single year. So what's happening here? You're decreasing, everything else is increasing. What's going to happen? You're going to become poor. Poor. And I gave the example for you to be earning the exact amount of money in the UK than like the people were in 1970s. You'd need to be earning £160,000 per year. Who's earning £160,000 per year in the United Kingdom? Except a few people. The average wage is 30,000. 30,000 is the average wage. That's not even half what it was equal to in 1970. That's not even a quarter. It's not even a quarter, it's less than a quarter. Because a quarter of 160 is what? 40. 40 is not even the average. So what's happened over the years, the people have gotten poorer. That's what's happened over the years. Don't think your sheikh is going to tell you about this. Because I doubt he has any knowledge concerning this whatsoever. At best, or at worst, he knows this. And he allows this to happen. And he is a Jew that is wearing the clothing to deceive the Muslims. That is at worst. At best, he doesn't know. But that's not good at all as well. As the poet, what did the poet say? I think I mentioned it. Something along the lines of, if you do not know, then it's a calamity. If you know, then the calamity is greater. فَالْمُصِيبَةُ أَعْظَمُ, the calamity is even greater. So the two aspects of not knowing and actually knowing, it's no good for you. You're at a loss, you're at a calamity, both sides. It's not something good. So once we understand this, there has to be a whole new understanding. Look, why do you think Muslim communities around the West are some of the poorest people around the world? Do you know why? Because they keep getting bogged down into their minds, Islamic finance, you need to get the Islamic riba, you need to get the Islamic interest. Yeah? They've been bogging this down to the people for so many years. And I see this to be one of their agendas. Because they've kept the Muslims poor and poor and poor and poor and poor and poor and poor. Because the poorer the Muslims are in the West, the more reliant they are on the disbelievers. And if I was to tell you anything, the first thing I'll tell you is the entire financial system is completely corrupt. And the second thing I'll tell you is do what the banker does. Do what the banker does. That's it. You won't succeed in this financial system. Don't act like you're going to be the righteous guy and trying to flourish and you're going to find some loophole. No, you're not going to find a loophole. What loophole are you going to find when the root itself is interest? What are you going to do? So if you cannot find a society that deals with gold, I think there's certain cities in South Asia, if I'm not mistaken, Malaysia or some part, they actually deal with dinar and dirham. They give zakah in dinar and dirham, in gold and silver, like you are supposed to do. These people come up and say fiat currency, you can give zakah and fiat currency. You know what? I'm going to read a book to you guys. I am going to read some pages of this book. And it's called The Judgment on Fiat Currency. And I'm going to go to the aspect where they speak about zakah and listen to how oppressive using fiat currency is on zakah. People don't know nothing, bro. You're trying to teach me about zakah and the rulings, the ahkam of zakah. You don't even know what people are paying zakah for. Don't talk to me about zakah. Where is it? Let me go Control F. Find zakah. Number 6. Fiat currency poses a serious problem to zakah. It is a consensus amongst the 4 madhabs that zakah must be paid in ayn, tangible money in cash, and it cannot be paid in dayn, which is debt, receipts, promissory notes. Remember what we said about that video that you just heard about the pound being IOU. It's a promissory note. Okay, zakah cannot be paid with debt because that note is saying, I promise, meaning there's a promissory note. I promise to pay the bearer on demand the sum of £10. So that note you have is a promissory note. You can't then give your promissory note to someone else and say this is zakah. You're giving your own debt to someone else and saying that's zakah. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's not zakah. Some may ask, if it's debt, then who issued the debt and to whom was it issued? Nearly all the existing governments in the world agreed to the Bretton Woods Agreement in 1944. And with that, all the citizens of the world were at the same time the victims as well as the ignorant aiders to the conspiracy for the fact that governments are representatives, wakil, of its citizens. Therefore, by the rulings of al-wakala, representation, the citizens of the world are the moneylenders, and the American government in cooperation with the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, are the borrowers that lied and broke their promise. Wallahi, that is true. That's the truth. At least, during the Bretton Woods Agreement, the promissory note still retained some value, but today it is exactly nothing. It is an illusion and deception. The question is, where is your gold? And can we pay zakah with the smoke of a burnt promise? Remember the £20, the dollar note, it means that you can go to the bank and get gold. But because they left the gold standard, means now you can't go to the bank and get your gold. So they lied to you when they said that this is backed by gold. They lied to you. They broke your promise. When they told you all these paper notes that you have, you can change it, exchange it for gold. They have lied to you. Now you have empty paper that's worth nothing. The question is, where is our gold? And can we pay zakah with the smoke of a burned promise? What was the promise? That they promised to pay the bearer on demand the sum of £10 in gold or silver. It will be a clear insult to the Sharia if the answer is yes. Okay? So it's an insult. If you say we can pay zakah with a smoked promise, then that's an insult to the Sharia. The nisab, the measure, the limit, the reference of zakah was set by the Prophet ﷺ based on the weight of gold and silver, not fiat value of gold and silver that fluctuates all the time due to chronic inflation. The nisab of gold is 20 dinars, mithqal, and the nisab of silver is 200 dirhams. If the value of money used to pay zakah fluctuates all the time, because look, gold today is like 1,900 and something pound, but last week it was 1,000 something different. So gold is still the same, the weight of gold is still the same, but now the price of gold has now changed. It's changed. Even though 1 ounce of silver is supposed to be 1 ounce of silver, but the fiat currency that's connected to it keeps fluctuating and changing. If the value of the money used to pay zakah fluctuates all the time, it means that the nisab will also fluctuate all the time. And this is detrimental to the pillar of zakah. Remember, zakah is one of the pillars of al-Islam. And these people clearly don't know what zakah is. And they do not know how zakah is supposed to operate, because they don't know the financial system, because they think paper is exactly the same as gold and silver. That are crazy people. The fiat nisab of zakah in Singapore only 5 years ago, this is when the book was written, a long time ago, the fiat zakah in Singapore only 5 years ago was approximately $2,500. And today it is $6,500. So look at what this does, yeah? What this does is, you could have afforded to pay zakah 5 years ago because it was $2,500. But because now it's $6,500, you can't afford to pay zakah anymore. So what have they done? They've cancelled the people who are able to pay zakah, and now the people are unable to afford it now. So what's going to happen? You can't pay zakah. So because of this fiat currency system that these disbelievers are behind, you cannot pay zakah because they have made you poor. They have impoverished you. They have impoverished you. So, what more proof do we need? In just 5 years, a person can fall from being a zakah contributor to a non-contributor without even the slightest disruption to the digits in his or her bank account. Look at that. If you had an ounce of gold, today you'd still have an ounce of gold. But if you have $1,000, next week, that's going to decrease. Chronic inflation snatches away the right of the poor to zakah money. Wallahi it does. Wallahi it does. It eats up the wealth of the middle class. Yes, it does. It eats up the wealth of the middle class. Bankers will disagree with this by claiming that interest rates act as a mechanism to balance the effects of inflation. This is unintelligent. Why dig a hole just to fill it back up? Why dig it in the first place? That's very true. How did inflation come about? It came about from you. So now you started inflation and now you want to solve inflation. You're playing a game. You're playing one big game. Some may say that the fiat nisab reflects the value of gold and silver that have risen. The answer is no. It only reflects the fact that in only 5 years, the Singaporean dollar has lost more than 50% of its value. The value purchasing power, not price of gold and silver, miraculously stays relatively the same for the past 1,400 years. Look at this. For example, a sheep around the time of the Prophet ﷺ in gold and silver is almost exactly the same as the price of a sheep today in gold and silver. So how is it the purchasing power of gold and silver has retained itself for almost 1,400 years? 1,400 years. But the fiat currency can't sustain its purchasing power for even 5 years. Gold can do it for 1,400 years, but fiat currency can't even do it for 5 years. But your sheikh, your alim is going to tell you that gold is exactly the same as fiat currency. Wallahi, he's a liar. He's a kadhabun ashir. That's what he is. He is a deceptive liar. That's what he is. He's a deceptive liar. You cannot say gold and paper money are the same. No, they're not. Your paper money can't even survive for 5 years, let alone 1,400 years ago, being untouched, almost untouched. I think there was a brother that shared the price of chicken back then, the price of sheep back then, the price of so many things. And today, it's exactly the same. Yes, this is the sad thing. This book was written by a few students from random universities, Al-Azhar University, Malaysia, if I'm not mistaken, Malaysians or Singaporeans. Most likely they will be Singaporeans because they're speaking at it from the aspect of Singapore. It's crazy how they understand what's going on in this world. They understand what's going on in this world. But apparently other people don't understand what's going on in the world. So what is it? During the time of the Prophet ﷺ, 1 dinar could be used to purchase or buy 1 or 2 sheep. Today, with the same amount of gold, you may purchase 1 or 2 sheep depending on the quality of the sheep. Imagine that. 1 dinar at the time of the Prophet could buy you 1-2 sheep. Okay? 1-2 dinar. 1 dinar could buy you 1-2 sheep at the time of the Prophet. Today, 1,400 years later, it can afford you 1-2 sheep again. What does that mean? That gold has sustained its purchasing power for 1,400 years. No bank can come and then say, we're going to devalue your currency 99%. So 50 years that you worked, we're going to devalue those 50 years. All those savings are nothing because of hyperinflation. They can never say that. And they want to have the audacity to even compare paper, fiat currency to gold and silver. Wallahi, they have lied. They have lied because the Prophet spoke about gold and silver. The Prophet never, ever, ever spoke about promissory notes. Never, ever spoke about IOUs. Never, ever spoke about the modern day fiat currency. Wallahi wa billahi wa tallahi. He did never, ever once. You will never find a single word of his that alludes to the fact that this is somewhat permissible. Somewhat permissible. He always mentioned gold and silver. الذهب والفضة. ذهب. There's no euros, Great British pounds, paper. 1,400 years ago, one could buy 1 chicken with 1 dirham. And today, 1 dirham can get 1 to 3 chickens, depending on the quality of chicken. Zakah is tawqifiyya. Tawqifiyya means it's something that it cannot be subjected to human adjustments. It cannot be changed. Tawfiqiyya of matters that cannot be changed. So it's a tawfiqiyya form of ibadah. Like salah. For example, salah, there are certain raka'at that you have to pray. You can't add more. You can't reduce it. It's tawqifiyya. It's called, not tawfiqiyya. Tawqifiyya, which means you cannot add, you cannot subtract. For example, zakah is a certain amount. You can't add it, you can't subtract it. But when you're then using your fiat currency, what have you done to it? You've increased it, you decreased it, you increased it. Why? Because of inflation. Because of inflation. Because of inflation. Our throat is gone. You cannot change the nisab of zakah or the means to pay zakah, as you cannot reduce the number of raka'at in salah or change the movements. They mention the same thing here. None of the aspects of al-ibadah al-tawqifiyya can be based on qiyas, which is what qiyas is what the fiat currency, when they give this fiat currency ruling that money is like gold and silver, they give it based on qiyas. Okay, but keep that in mind. To strike a comparison between gold and silver with paper money as a means to pay zakah and wealth is a form of qiyas. This is said by Dr. Mahmoud Al-Khalidi, Zakat al-Nuqud al-Waraqiyya al-Mu'asira, okay, which is talking about zakah with the fiat currency of today. Given zakah in fiat ensures the continuation of the fiat-based monetary system. In reality, we are given the asnaf, the recipients of zakah, the very tool that is responsible for them being in need of the zakah money. All of the above show that it is not allowed to pay zakah with fiat currency when the dinar and dirham is already in circulation, and while the needs of the asnaf could be fulfilled by it, i.e. the dinar and dirham. If it is not circulating yet, then it is incumbent upon the Muslim community, especially the ulama and umara, to put it in place. Have your scholars put this in place, yes or no? No, they haven't. Zilch, sorry. Among the ulama who have courageously declared the impermissibility of paying zakah for and with fiat currency are, they just mention a random people: Muhammad Abdurrahman al-Shinqiti, Al-Haj Wan, Ahmad Barmin Fatani, Ali al-Maliki, Ahmad Khatib, Muhammad Arshad al-Banjari. Allah even knows who these people are. I don't know these people. I don't know these people. Those opponents of this stand rebutting by saying, if that is true, then only those who possess gold, silver, crops and trading commodities are obliged to pay zakah. And since the majority of the ummah now hold their wealth in fiat currency, they will be exempted from paying it. Therefore, the rightful asnaf will be left without being given zakah, and the pillar of zakah will fall. Like, do you see how they're using all they can from the religion to try and defend the fiat currency? They reply by saying, but if we look at the shocking yet profound fatwa again, we will realize that the intention was clearly not to suspend the obligation of zakah, but to wake the ummah up to start looking at the reality of fiat currency, unshackle themselves from its oppression and encourage them to repossess their gold and silver that they were robbed from, and start paying their zakah properly for and with gold and silver, real commodities, instead of for and with fiat. Of course, nobody will call the Muslims now to abandon fiat totally in one day. And we are not saying that the obligation of zakah is suspended. No, since ما لا يتم الواجب إلا به فهو واجب. Whatever is a means to facilitate wajib is itself a wajib. Therefore, paying zakah from our fiat wealth is still wajib, especially today when the usage of fiat currency has been made far and more globalized and widespread than during the time when the profound fatwa was issued. We still have to pay zakah for the money we have been forced to save in fiat currency. But when we pay, we have to pay in dinar and dirham, gold and silver coins, so that we fulfill not only the obligation of paying zakah, but we are also changing the situation. We will then be circulating halal and sunnah money that the Sharia of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has shown us. It is upon the shoulders of the umara, the leaders, and the ulama, the scholars, to reintroduce the dinar and dirham to the ummah and revive its usage. Should we carry on? Should we do one more section? That was section 6 concerning fiat currency and zakah. We can speak about fiat currency was created to serve the usurious debt-based economy for the Yahud. The history, we'll carry on. The history of fiat currency as a political tool cannot and must not be ignored by the ulama, especially the fact that it was used time and again as a political weapon by the big and economically powerful nations, especially Britain and America, to weaken their enemies. It is not surprising that Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam declared war on the consumers of riba. Banks are as haram as a brothel. And this must be made clear. The origin of the word is either from the old Italian word banca, or maybe if you know how to speak Italian, you probably know how to say that, or medieval French word banque, which means bench. It refers to the bench where the Jews in Europe sat behind when they lent out money on interest. So now you understand what bank is, and now you understand why it's called a bank. It's the chair that the Jews used to sit on when they used to lend their money out with interest. Until today, the core foundation of banks still conforms to its etymology. Etymology means the root word, the meaning of the root word. The business of a bank is to sell money for profit. It's crazy, isn't it? Selling money for profit. That's why they go trade on the Forex exchange. What do they do on the Forex exchange? Pound, dollars, and they trade Forex exchanges, and that's how they make money. They make money by selling money, apparently. Even though fiat currency is not money, it's a currency, but they sell currencies to make more currencies. Does that make sense? The commodity is money itself. And money that produces money without the intermediary of any real production and effort is riba. What defines a bank is not the facility of safekeeping, nor the facilitation of payment, nor an investor on behalf of the owner. A safekeeping facility in Islam is called a wadiya, and in English it's called a vault. An entity that facilitates payments and invests on behalf of its owner is called a wakil. We Muslims did not have banks before, and our economy did prosper. Some of our mega projects are still standing strong today. Then we had the banks coming in, and we witnessed endless crisis in just a couple of decades. Do we need banks in the first place? If yes, for what exactly? They pose a very good question. The most lucrative commodity today is not oil, it is debt. And that is true. Banks represent the biggest chunk of the GDP and GNP of most countries. That's why if you want to prosper and you want to go to university, what do you learn? You learn finance. You go and become an investment manager, or you become asset manager, or you become all these bankers. That is where the money is made. Investment managers will be making hundreds of thousands of pounds. If you're a CFO, the chief financial officer of a company, you could be making £2 million. The money is where the finance is, where the banks are. Why is that? Because guess what? They are the biggest in the entire country. The more debt created, the more money must also be created. Hence the important role of fiat currency in this satanic economy. Wallahi, they've spoken the truth. It is a satanic economy. Pull fiat currency away and the banks will come to a halt immediately. It is not surprising to see the moving away of money from having intrinsic value to artificial and imposed value correlates and goes hand in hand with the emergence and growth of banking. What does Islam say about life immersed and shackled in debt? It was narrated from Aisha radiallahu anha that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to say in his prayer, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-ma'tham wal-maghram. Oh Allah, I seek refuge from you from sin and heavy debt. Someone said to him, how often do you seek refuge from heavy debt? He sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, when a man gets into debt, he speaks and he tells lies, and when he makes a promise, he breaks it. When he makes a promise, he breaks it. So look at the societies that deal with debt. Do they not lie a lot? Is deception not increasing? Is promises being broken constantly? Do you not find that amongst the people? Is that not common in the society? And the Prophet spoke the truth. Based on this hadith, it is clear that a society that is immersed in debts will surely be a society of liars. What more being shackled by usury-based debts? It is true. We do live in a society of liars. People do lie. That's what they call marketing nowadays. They lie to you. They lie to you and deceive you mentally to take money from you. They call it marketing. That's what they call it. Does this not worry us? Why must everybody be in debt today in order to get our basic life necessities? Is this kind of lifestyle natural? No, it's not. Those who are able to look beyond form can surely see that there is a very sinister agenda behind the globalization of this unnatural lifestyle. And do you know what the agenda is? The agenda is to move from fiat currency into digital currency, and that's when the people are truly going to be enslaved. And guess who else is going to be enslaved? Your sheikh and your alim, who is completely unaware and ignorant of the agendas and the plots and the things that are going on in this world. He's going to be enslaved as well. And if he was enslaved, I could not care less if he was ever enslaved. Wallahi wa billahi wa tallahi, due to his ignorance and his extreme ignorance of the matter and him aiding the disbelievers, I could not care less if he was enslaved one bit, and what they did to him in enslavement. And if I could ever purchase him, I would have never bought him out from slavery one bit, not even look to his direction. I would say let him remain a slave for the rest of his life, because guess what, it's not like he has the intellect to even find any sort of freedom anyways. Disappointingly enough, those who attempted to justify the permissibility of fiat currency, inflation and interest blatantly ignored the fact that all these were created first and foremost to serve a system of life based on debt. The very debt that the Prophet ﷺ used to seek protection from. We can go to point 8. They mentioned point 8 as well. The economic system that is based on fiat ensures that the wealth of Muslims will be totally dependent and subjected to the manipulation of the kuffar, since all currencies are mini United States dollars. Alhamdulillah. Whatever happens to the United States dollar will surely have an effect on its offspring. When the Federal Reserve Bank of America has created $9.7 trillion out of nothing, and due to that the USD has lost its value, it means that all other currencies have lost their value, since these mini currencies are backed not by gold but by the United States dollars. For example, the Saudi Riyal. For example, many other currencies are pegged to the United States dollars. Therefore, supporting the use of fiat currency and making it halal means supporting the fact that our money must be dependent on the United States dollars that constantly loses value, and supporting the fact that our money can be subjected to the manipulations of the kuffar. Now do you understand why the Muslims are being humiliated left, right, center? Now you understand. Allah mentions in the Quran, among the people of the book, there are those who, if you trust them with a pile of gold, will return it to you. But there are others among them, if you trust them with a single dinar, will not return it to you unless you stay standing over them. That is because they say, we are under no obligation where the Gentiles are concerned. They tell a lie against Allah and they know it. Surah Al Imran. Al Imran. Okay. The hukum of this ayat, according to Abu Bakr Ibn al-Arabi in Ahkam al-Quran, not Ibn Arabi, Ibn al-Arabi, he's another person, in his Ahkam al-Quran is as follows. It is forbidden, haram, for the Muslims to have an amana with the kuffar outside Darul Islam, that is, without standing over them, under the power of a Muslim authority. And the explanation for this is found in the ayat itself. That is because they say we are under no obligation. That is to say, because they can and will repudiate whatever that word is, the agreement. Since this has been proven to be historically the case, we may conclude that it is of vital importance. What this means is that it is not acceptable for the Muslims to have money deposited with the kuffar anywhere, since we do not have a Darul Islam in which to exercise standing over them, i.e. a financial system that's over them. A financial system over them. We're not allowed to be subjugated by them, as the Quran clearly mentions here. We're not allowed to be subjugated by them financially, but clearly we are. That's the reality. Saudi Riyal is, UAE is, all these other countries are, yes. A light interpretation would suggest that it would be acceptable to have amana with a kafir if the deposits are under the power of a Muslim authority. We accept the latter version, but what it categorically denies is the possibility of having an amana with a kuffar when the wealth is stored under a kafir authority. This ruling applies to entrusting your real wealth, gold and silver or anything that has intrinsic value to a kafir authority. But today the situation has changed, and the new situation is that this kafir authority to whom we entrust our wealth has an established reputation of having broken its promise again and again, to the extent that our real wealth has now already been stolen, and we are left with a means of exchange that is imposed on us by the same kafir authority, and which means of exchange has no value at all in of itself. So not only have they taken our gold and silver from us, they've given us paper that's worth nothing. If depositing gold and silver with a kafir authority is already haram, then how about depositing a false currency imposed on us by a kafir authority which has time and time again broken its promise? And then they speak about fiat currency and al-qawa'id al-fiqhiyya with the legal maxims that I'm not going to get into. But what other point is there? You know what? I'll read quite a bit more, and then we'll put it to an end. Fiat currency is theft, as mentioned in the second stage of the devolution of money, i.e., that money is losing its value. Fiat is a further deterioration from the second stage. Those who are able to print money out of nothing are actually buying natural resources by paying for it with nothing. Worse still, this nothing loses value all the time. Is this not theft? The ripping off in riba happens when the awareness of the borrower, where the definition of sariqa or theft in the fiqh is taking somebody else's wealth through deception. That is what sariqa is. That's what theft is. You take somebody else's wealth through deception. All Muslim countries, especially OPEC countries, i.e. Saudi, Kuwait, all these OPEC countries, are deceived by selling their oil and natural resources for something that the buyers created out of nothing. They sell their oil to America for dollars. America created dollars out of what? Thin air. They printed dollars out of what? Thin air. So America is buying natural resources, oil from the ground, for pieces of paper that they have printed as a means of payment that is subjected to continuous devaluation. So when Saudi is taking all these dollars for all the oil, what has happened to the dollar? It's been devalued all these years. It's been going down, going down, going down. So Saudi is being stolen, but then they know that they're being stolen. So the question is, why are they allowing it to be stolen? Why? Is it for protection, number one? Or is it because they understand the agenda is to move away from fiat currency to digital currency, and that digital currency has to be in Saudi Arabia as well? Why is this deception? Because most citizens still do think that the paper money or electronic money that the customer countries have issued are still backed by something real and that they are secure. No, they're not secure. Number 5, fiat currency. Its destructive effects are clear. Harajun bayyinun. The haraj, the destructiveness nature of it is clear. The constant devaluation of all currencies in the past 100 years is an irrevocable proof of the haram nature of fiat currency. Those who suffer the most are the poor. This is not a matter of ikhtilaf nor khilaf anymore. The destructive nature of fiat currency are beyond any doubt. The harm of fiat is essential and not لغيره, it's لذاته. Okay? No amount of mental gymnastics can make it look otherwise. You see that? You see they're smart. They're smart. They said no amount of mental gymnastics can what? Make it look otherwise. Because what these people that try to support the fiat currency, they say, oh, they try, the ayat say this, the hadith say that. Look, they try to use the Quran and Sunnah for a satanic economy. Does Iblis not love those people? Who is the most corrupt than the one who tries to use the Quran and Sunnah to legitimize Iblis in his ways? Who's more corrupt than that? Look at this question they pose. How can something halal bring so much destruction to humanity? Ask yourself that question. If fiat currency is so halal, how can it bring so much destruction to humanity? Millions and millions and millions and millions have been killed. Millions have been killed. If it's halal, how can it have brought so much destruction to humanity? And how can something be so full of injustice? There are 786 paper currencies that have been created since the introduction of paper money. And only 23% of these currencies remain with us today. 19% of them were destroyed by hyperinflation. 58% are now no longer in circulation. So what makes you think your paper money that you're holding today is going to last? Moreover, it is important to add that most or all of these currencies have lost more than 50% of its value since their inception. So if you saved up 50 years earning this paper money, 50% of value is already gone, you know that. So your 50 years is equivalent to now 25 years. What did you do for the other 25 years? You are working as a slave because it's nothing now. You worked for nothing. That's what slavery is. That's why they call it corporate slavery, because you work for nothing. You work for nothing. That is pure slavery. When you work and you work and you work and you're not getting anything out of it. If a person doesn't pay you in gold and silver, then you are being seen as a slave. Because look, I'll give you an example. If I paid you in pounds, British pounds today, in 50 years, let's say 50 years ago, I paid you in British pounds. Today, 50 years, your British pound has devalued 90%. But if I gave you gold, the power of that gold is still today exactly the same. It's actually far more powerful. So, had you been paid in gold, you would have been still protected, preserved from inflation, preserved from all this hyperinflation and all this corruption in the economy, preserved if I paid you in gold. But I didn't pay you in gold, I paid you in British pounds. And you saved all your 50 years, and now you've lost 90% value. So that 90% that you were working for free. Thank you. Thank you. And they say slavery ended. How has slavery ended? Explain to me in clear English, how has slavery ended? No, it hasn't ended. During the 4-year war in Germany, the price of a roll of bread rose from £1 to 4,000 million pounds. The roll of bread, just in between 4 years, okay, a roll of bread rose from £1 before the 4 years, it was £1. After the 4 years, it became 4,000 million for one piece of bread. That's why if you go write Weimar Republic, German hyperinflation, you're going to see people with wheelbarrows of paper fiat currency, and it says 1 million on it. 1 million, 1 million. Everyone's going, tissue is more expensive than paper currency. The people couldn't even afford to buy tissue with the paper money that they had, so they had to burn the paper money, and they were using the paper money to clean their backsides, because that's the value of paper currency. It's paper. They use it to clean their poo. That's the reality. And your sheikh is going to say paper money is the same as gold and silver. Who ever in the history of mankind has cleaned his backside with gold and silver? Who ever in his right mind in the history of mankind has cleaned his backside with gold and silver? And your sheikh wants to say it's exactly the same as fiat currency. Rich men became beggars in a shockingly short period of time. This very same thing happened during the Great Depression in Indonesia, in Zimbabwe, and it's still strangling the throats of many countries today. Recently, it's happened in Lebanon, where 99% of the currency was devalued. So if you worked 60 years in Lebanon, saving 60 years the Lebanese pound, in one night, the Lebanese central bank devalued the currency 99%. So the 99% of that time that you were working to save up for 60 years in Lebanon, it was zilch, worth nothing. Tell me you're not a slave then. Because now it's devalued 99%. All your savings can't even buy you one loaf of bread. You were a millionaire yesterday. You can't even afford bread tomorrow. So what has happened to your money? If you can even call it money. Is this not dhulm? Is this not the eye of oppression? Is this not oppression to the core? Where someone's going to work hard his entire life thinking he's free. And you're like, nah, mate, you worked for free. You weren't free. You were working for free, though. This was going to be the final one. It's going to be the longest one, but it's the final one. It's number 3. This is the final one. Inshallah. A piece of paper not backed by any specie whose legal value is determined by the compulsion of the state. No, what is this? Sorry, this part is actually long. Wow. Oh, this is number 1. This is number 1. The hukum on fiat as money. Number 1, it is neither a measure of value nor a store of value. It is nothing. It has no value. And inflation is a permanent and the only intrinsic value in fiat currency. In the first place, fiat does not qualify to be money in the fiqh, nor does it qualify to be money from the definition of modern economics. As defined by both traditions, money is a means of exchange, a measure of value, as well as a store of value. Guess what? Fiat currency is not a store of value. Fiat currency today cannot be a measure of value or a store of value, as it constantly loses its illusory value due to it not having natural or intrinsic value. In reality, it is nothing presented as something. This is why fiat money and chronic inflation are not separable. This book was written a long time ago. What is going on around the world in inflation today? What happened to Turkey? Turkey is sitting at 60-something% inflation. What's happened to Lebanon? Lebanon is at 220-something% inflation. What's happened? What has happened? This is why fiat money and chronic inflation are not separable. Both are the results of each other. Nothingness will only return to nothingness, and history is a witness to this. Yes, it is. What happened? What happened to the Reichsmark that was being used in the Weimar Republic? What happened to it? Nothingness will only return to nothingness, and a history is witness to this. As Allah says in the Quran in Surah Al-Baqarah, يَمْحَقُ اللَّهُ الرِّبَى. Allah will destroy riba. Allah will destroy riba. Inflation, which we have decided to call chronic inflation here, as well as hyperinflation, whatever stage inflation is at, can be related strongly to al-bakhs, which that is prohibited in the Quran, as mentioned in Surah Al-A'raf, ayah 85. This is because when inflation occurs, the purchasing power of the money we hold, fiat currency, falls. That is to say, the money that we use today buys lesser and lesser constantly. As time passes, the purchasing power of money only falls. Hence, people only buy lesser with the money they have. The fall in its purchasing power does not happen based on real situation, where the money supply circulating in the nation naturally exceeds the goods and services available in the nation. The resultant increase in the price of goods and services is due to the artificial creation of money out of nothing. That's what inflation is. When the central banks print billions and trillions, that's what causes inflation. Because now they've pumped billions and trillions into the society, and the goods and services does not level those amount of billions and trillions that were put in there. And because there's little supply supply in comparison to the amount of pounds that's into the system, those goods now increase in value, but your pound is devalued. So buying a cup of tea now is going to be more expensive than it was yesterday. Your pound yesterday was worth more than it is today. This artificial creation of money out of thin air, one of it is due to what bankers call fractional reserve banking. This has never ceased to happen since banking took control of the money supply of a country. And as a result, the price of goods and services are deliberately forced to be raised and as an inevitable result, the value of the money in our possession keeps falling. This intended rip-off is called al-bakhs, which Islam doesn't allow. Therefore, trading with fiat as a means of exchange, in reality, is trading with nothing for something. There is no equality. It is dhulm, oppression, a clear act of injustice, especially from the part of the issuer of the money. Some try to defend the permissibility of fiat currency by arguing that Umar radiallahu anhu did propose the usage of camel skin as money. The rebuttal to this is very simple. Camel skin has intrinsic value. You cannot create it out of nothing like electronic fiat currency, which you can. The value cannot be increased or decreased by simply adding or subtracting zeros. So the value is in the camel skin itself. If you wrote 5,000 on the camel skin and 500, it's still the same. Unlike fiat currency, which is different. If someone has 10 zeros in his bank account, he's got a lot more. He's worth a lot more than a person who's got 2 zeros. Crazy. Where else is it? Camel skin has intrinsic value. You cannot create it out of nothing like fiat currency. The value cannot be increased or decreased by simply adding or subtracting zeros or attaching multiple factors to or from it like it is done mathematically to fiat currencies at every financial year. It's mathematics. That's why if you know mathematics, if you know cryptography, if you know the inner depths of mathematics and all these numbers, for example, you could become a quantitative trader. In the United Kingdom, some quantitative traders make £800,000 a year. £800,000 a year because they're well versed in cryptography, mathematics, and quantitative trading. Because of that, they are given what? Because they're so good at mathematics, they are given a salary of £800,000. Who is earning £800,000 in the United Kingdom? That's how you know the financial system is founded upon this nonsensical mathematics that they keep pushing out. The same as the algorithm for blockchain and cryptocurrencies. It's all an algorithm. It's all mathematical equations. That's all it is. Mathematical equations. If you cut the camel skin into two, each half retains its value. And the camel skin is not as cheap and abundant as paper or electronic bytes. It is the same with bread, rice, dates. You have a note. Go get your note right now. Cut that note in half. Can you then go out and say, I've got two £50 notes? No, you can't. They're going to say you've damaged the bank. It's illegal. It's not legal tender anymore. It's illegal. What? But if you cut gold in half, you can sell that half in gold and then you can sell the other half in gold. It's both money. But the moment you cut a piece of paper, £50, $100 note, it's illegal. It's not legal tender anymore. You can't say, oh, that's $100 bill. Now I cut it in half. It's now $50 and $50. No, it's not. With gold, if you cut gold in half, it is 50-50. So you can't look. We keep speaking about this. We keep speaking about this. You cannot compare gold and silver to paper money in anything. Anything. That's why it's so hard to be ignorant about it. It's so hard. You must be extremely dumb. So stupid and dumb. It's so hard to be dumb about this. Do we seriously think that Umar radiallahu anhu would have made camel skin into fiat currency? Meaning, would he have had used the same skin to pay for his 1 kilo flour and the same skin for 100 horses, except that every skin has a different value, every skin a different value was projected based on the mathematical calculations determined by the issuer of the currency? No, he didn't. He didn't. Remember, we are condemning the act of creating value out of nothing. However, we do limit the means of exchange. We do not limit the means of exchange to only gold and silver. That's true. The Prophet mentioned barley. The seeds of dates were mentioned. Other things are mentioned as forms of money. But gold and silver is spoken about because they are like the foundations. yes, our fuqaha, the scholars of fiqh, did write that if the form of money has the characteristics of ar-rawaj, general acceptance, then it is qualified to be called a-thaman, okay, which is money. But none of our fuqaha have ever said that you can use nothing as money. Fiat is nothing. It was originally a representation of something, while it was a promissory note, i.e. I promise to pay the bearer on demand the sum of £10 in gold or silver, but now it is nothing. But your shaykh does say it is something, because your shaykh says it's gold and silver. As quoted in the beginning, the ulama from the four madhabs have defined the function of money, and we will look back at them. All of the functions they listed imply clearly that for something to be accepted as a mean of exchange, ar-rawaj, which is general acceptance of the people, is not enough. The money must first have intrinsic value. Fiat currency doesn't have intrinsic value. Then comes general acceptance on something that has intrinsic value, that allows it to function justly as a measure and a store of value. It's not a store of value. It doesn't have intrinsic value. So fiat currency is not a means of exchange. Even if the dumb people, because the masses are extremely dumb, they are the very, very dumb, and because they're very, very dumb, they accept it as a means of exchange. They accept it. They accept slavery. That's why I say when full-time slavery comes, a large majority of the world are going to become slaves. It's going to be like a kid going to a candy store. You're going to have so many slaves one day. I hope, my brother. You're going to have so many slaves. You don't understand. You're going to have hundreds or maybe thousands and thousands of slaves. Because that's just the natural state of so many people. That it's almost as if it's written for these people to just always remain to be slaves. Slave. They're happy with food, so give them some food, give them some shelter. They'll be happy to be your slave, my brother. Talking about slavery ended. What slavery ended? We are well aware that inflation can also happen upon gold and silver currencies, and it did before. Inflation means the increase in the money supply, and this increase exceeds the amount of goods and services in the country that causes resultantly the price of goods and services to rise. A natural, in contrast to artificial, cause of inflation would be war booty that brings in a fresh supply of gold and silver coins into the local economy. All of a sudden the goods and services cannot increase equally, and therefore prices naturally have to rise. You see, this is all natural. It is all natural. It's not artificial. Another example would be the discovery of a gold mine that would increase gold and silver coinage and inject fresh money into the already existing money supply. Or at times, inflation used to occur because rulers decided to debase their coins. Yes, debase their coins by mixing gold with something else. However, people with credible intellect, can't be said for a lot of people, will know that the inflation due to the fiat currency cannot be equated to all of the inflation of gold and silver currency as in the examples mentioned before. Now, can it be equated to the practice of gold and silver debasement? This is something else. Inflation in fiat currency is a norm, but it is an exception where gold and silver is used as money. That's the difference. Inflation is the norm for fiat currency. It's an exception for gold and silver. History is our proof. History has testified to this. Certain people don't know history. It is important to note here that money does not become money in Islam simply because it functions as money. There are other factors that can disqualify something from becoming money. For example, pigskin. Even if it is generally functions successfully as money, it cannot be used as money because there are other reasons that make it haram. The same applies to fiat currency. With the apparent strong reasonings that make fiat currency appear to have fulfilled the facilitation of buying and selling, with it should not blur us from the fact that there are other many reasons in fiqh that should disqualify it from being accepted as money. The law of legal tender and the corruption of vital trading of tijaratun. Okay, I'll leave it at that. If you want to read it, you can just read the book. fiat currency is the clearest and worst manifestation of riba. It is the value of the creation of value out of nothing, and this is the essence of riba. The linguistic meaning of the word riba is كل زيادة لم يقبلها, an increase without counter value, by Abu Bakr. الربا يقتضي أخذ المال الإنسان من غيره, how riba means taking the wealth of others without giving a counter value for it. 3 stages of the just read the book and you'll benefit, inshallah. I think they mentioned here promissory notes here. Wait, let me read the part about. So Yahya related to me from Malik that he had heard that receipts were given to the people in the time of Marwan bin al-Hakam, who was the ruler, for the produce of the market of Al-Jar. People bought and sold the receipts among themselves before they took delivery of the goods. Zayd bin Thabit, one of the companions of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, went to Marwan bin Hakam and said, Marwan, do you make riba halal? He said, I seek refuge with Allah. What is that? He said, these receipts, yes, these receipts which people buy and sell before they take the delivery of goods. Marwan therefore sent guards to follow them and take them from the people's hands and return them to their owners. This is the example of promissory note, which is a piece of receipt. Because the bank owns you gold, which they're not going to give you because they've already left the gold standard. The bank owns you gold, so they give you this piece of receipt. Now where, just like in this example that Malik reports, this is the same example. We're now dealing with the same receipts. Constantly we buy things in the shop, we buy stuff with it, we're dealing with the same pieces of receipts. So it's not something new. Receipts and paper was used in the past. But what did the companion Zayd bin Thabit, one of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, say? He said, Marwan, do you make riba halal? He himself has verified to us that this is riba itself. The fiat currency and the paper money that your sheikh says is like gold is riba itself. And they make halal riba, whether they like to accept it or not. They make riba halal. Now we're not going to speak about that topic. Making the haram halal, that's another topic. But Zayd bin Thabit radiallahu anhu specifically called riba those receipts which people used to buy and sell before taking the delivery of the goods. It is allowed to use gold and silver or food to make the payment, but you cannot use a promise of payment, which in the market of Al-Jar was known as sukuk, and which until some decades ago was the bank note as a payment. It is a promise of payment, not payment itself. It's a promise of payment, which means there is only a promise made, but no payment is made. In it, there is an excess in time that is not allowed. If you have debt, you have to take possession of the tangible commodity it represents, and only then can you transact. You cannot use the debt itself as money. I mean, Islam is so clear on this one. Islam is so clear. What's unclear is how dumb certain people can be, and how weak certain people can be, and how ignorant certain people can be, and how unaware certain people can be, and how those same people can be looked at as the heads of this world, and they can be looked at as a'lam, they can be looked at as signposts, and they can be looked at as pillars, and they can be looked at as mountain posts. No, they're not. No, they're not. When you talk about alim and when I talk about alim, we talk about two different things. We talk about two different things. You are happy. Someone screaming outside saying, don't record me. What a world we live in. What a world we live in. What a world we live in. Don't record me. Listen, it's true, man. Imagine you're outside and someone's recording you. Throw the phone off their hands. People have gone so lost in this technological world. They want to capture and record every single aspect. Throw it off their hands. They all think they're